and different Web3 projects, different metaverses, they're not yet hooked up to each other. So it's, you go through all that work to put your fashion into a certain game, and then you have this opportunity over here. You have to just do that, and you have to do that whole process again.
Yeah, I think in some games you may want to be a dragon. I think people will get, depending on the environment they're in, they'll get creative on what they want to look like. But if you're in a more serious meeting space, you're probably going to be yourself. But they want the flexibility, and that's the key thing here. They want the flexibility to be everything.
Hi everyone, and welcome yet to another episode of NewForum. NewForum is powered by Newcoin Foundation and is focused on fostering the expansion of decentralized social applications, also known as Social 3.0, by forming an ecosystem and a community of visionaries, creators, and investors to spark conversations on topics of crypto, the metaverse, NFTs, and everything Web3.
And on this episode of NewForum, we're quite excited to have Jordan Henry and Graham Henry. They're brothers and founders of MetaTailor, a company that makes fully interoperable 3D clothing, making buying, selling, and trading 3D wearables at scale possible. Jordan and Graham will be telling us more about the potential of meta clothing, AR, VR, and how it will revolutionize the way we dress, our identity, and experience in life. Hey, Jordan and Graham, we're super honored that you could join us on this episode of NewForum, and we would love for you to tell us about yourself and the inspiration or vision behind the creation of MetaTailor.
Thank you for having us. Jordan, do you want to share some thoughts on that?
Yeah, amazing intro. We really appreciate you guys having us on. We're here to discuss, a lot of things, metaverse, and more specifically on how clothing and the gaming merge together.
Yeah, and if we start really at kind of the genesis of why we do this in the first place, Jordan and I both have a history working in like the video game space. Way back, I worked at a company called Epic, which went on to make a bunch of very popular video games. I think most notably they did Fortnite, which is like massive popularity at this point. And when I worked there, it was at this sort of transition where games and this digital media, there was a lot of revenue potential and people wanting to like put clothes on different avatars. So the technical challenge of, okay, how do we get tons of different clothes on tons of different avatars became sort of a consistent thing. So it's really just a lot of manual work. And then as like the industry is moving forward, as fashion and tech and social media and metaverse all become this sort of melting pot of entertainment, these technical challenges are getting magnified. And now so many different types of people want to be creating in this space. We have to make the ability to create easier. So that was our trajectory. And that's why we created MetaTailor and the suite of our products. And I would say, a lot of when we speak, we really want to talk to people who are creators in this space who may feel a little bit overwhelmed with like, how do I actually get in this? Like, I hear so much about the metaverse and it's so many people getting opportunities. I'm a creative person. How do I get in here and actually like get my stuff out? So yeah, we love to share everything we know to help people out and to make their way in the space.
So was this like the drive or the inspiration behind MetaTailor, like trying to kind of have this place where everything sort of comes together and makes it easier for, I guess, like creators or talents to kind of process everything that is going on, like as you described it, like metaverse, digital fashion, and all these new technologies. So was that like the inspiration, I guess, behind MetaTailor?
Yeah, I'd say one of the biggest inspirations behind MetaTailor was actually, we were doing our own projects and we kept running into this issue over and over again of like, we have to manually take clothes and put them on characters and just do it over and over again. And sometimes with the games we were doing it for, we were having a hard time. So we created kind of this internal platform that would make it easier for us. And then we realized there's a lot of other people that have the same issue. So then we made it more of a public tool. And now our motivation really, like Ram said, is to make it easier for creators, creative talent to get on our platform and get their stuff into games or into 3D environments.
Yeah, I was just about to say I was running into the same issue that you just mentioned. Like, I love digital fashion, but how do I get that on a filter? How do I get that, into like a Snapchat lens? And it should look properly. And I think many creators face this right now. And so it's great that you guys are offering the solutions for that. And I'm wondering, where do you, in all of this gaming and metaverse, I think for me, it was quite surprising that everything came just together in the pandemic with like fashion and gaming, that the line came together. And I'm wondering, where do you see like the biggest potential right now within the space that you're in?
In my opinion, the word metaverse is just video games evolved. And video games technology is so advanced now that the scale of video games can be literally mass. I mean, there's this game called Star Citizen that, in my opinion, is the first real metaverse. And it's like a whole galaxy you can fly ships around. And so the scale of that's massive. So the biggest problem that metaverse worlds have is they need so much content to fill the space. They need so many creative people to come in and just create stuff. And so I think that the biggest opportunity, the most potential that's waiting to be unleashed is like these opportunities for creative people to just come into these worlds and like unleash their creativity on it and really build sort of their own little space that other people get drawn to. And I don't think this is going to be something that is like a certain company controls it or a certain corporation. I really think that creative people can have their own space and they can share their creations directly with the people that want to consume them. And I think that people will make really good entire careers out of this sort of thing. And so that's what really excites me and Jordan, that we talk about this stuff constantly. We're like so excited about it. And we think it's a really great time for creative people right now.
Yeah, very well said. And one thing we talk about a lot is like, not only do we want this to be, for high level creators and stuff like that, but even like, a kid sitting in a college dorm room, right? Like they can go create something and then it could be put on our marketplace and then just shoved out into game titles immediately.
You said I guess your experience is gaming Metaverse. That was like, I guess, really awesome also. But then some guests would say the Metaverse is not here yet. It's really complicated. So like, can we define Metaverse? Like, can you define the Metaverse that you are like referring to?
Yeah, I mean, the word metaverse has become so, in my opinion, so ungrounded that it's just like this kind of phrase people just project so much stuff on. So it's like, what is this? What are we even talking about? So yeah, if I were to define it, the metaverse is just video games as they've always been, but evolved to have bigger populations and open communities. So they're bigger populations and they're open communities. That means that like millions of people are in this sort of shared space, and content can flow in and out of that space without needing to like talk to the creator of the game or something. So I could go on to that, but like an open loop, an open garden, so to speak. Now, in my opinion, there are metaverses that have existed for a long time. We just call them video games. VR chat, Star Citizen, which I mentioned, something like RuneScape, for like, the people that were around in the early 2000s. So there's a lot of games that have like fit this sort of description. And really when Facebook came out and like changed their name, now we're calling these things that have already existed Meta. But what's happened is that companies and venture capital has finally kind of looked at this space and gone, oh wow, we can create a really strong monetization model around gaming. And so a ton of branding money is going into like hyping up the metaverse. But what I think is critical is a lot less conversation is being happened around, okay, who is creating it? Who's creating this thing? What did they get out of it? Because every time I see metaverse, it's like, what do startups, companies, and investors get out of the metaverse? We're not talking about what is the average player, consumer, and creator getting. So as the metaverse sits right now, to me, it's just gaming evolved. And if metaverses are going to be successful, I look really strongly at, is it going to be an exciting place for people to play? I see tons of these metaverses popping up and it's like a shopping mall or something. And I'm like, we can go to a real shopping mall, you know? They have to be, if a metaverse is going to be fun, it has to be 10 times more fun than something else you could go do. I can go to the mall in real life. It's not that much more fun to do one in VR. So I could rant on that, but I'll leave you guys with that. But my definition of metaverse is the next evolution of the video games we're familiar with.
And to be clear on that, we're very pro metaverse, of course. Like we obviously we have VR, AR, like we built AR apps, like we're very, very pro, but what we're seeing now is, to summarize basically what Graham said, is it seems like big money, and I made a post about this the other day, actually. It's like big money is dictating what the perception of metaverse is, when in reality, it's like, you know, they're up here with their what's the movie, Ready Player One. That's their view of like metaverse. Like the technical ability to actually make that is still down here. So we have groundwork to get through before it can be at that level. I hope it gets to that level. I really do. But there's things that have to be done first.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So I guess there's like the metaverse, and then maybe there's probably going to be the Web3 metaverse. But anyway, I guess time would tell. But I'm also curious to know, like, how do you guys see like us embracing digital clothing in the future, and how will the metaverse redefine our fashion identity? Do you think that we're going to have like separate avatars from our like in real life personas? You know, currently we have those Snapchat filters and whatnot. So how is this all going to evolve?
Yeah, I think in some games you may want to be a dragon. I think people will get, depending on the environment they're in, they'll get creative on what they want to look like. But you know, if you're in a more serious meeting space, you're probably going to be yourself. But they want the flexibility, and that's the key thing here. They want the flexibility to be everything. So to say that I'm going to be in Meta and I can only be this one character, all right, I can adjust some things, or I can only be this. I think Meta is doing something different, but you know, Ready Player Me, for instance, it's that, you know, one character type. So that, but people want the ability to do it all, right? They want, right? As far as the clothing, I think the brands are going to, as far as embracing clothing as a whole, I think what's going to be important is and there's companies doing this now, is you buy a digital version and get a real version. I think that's going to be really important for the expansion of digital fashion as a whole.
Yeah, and I think, you know, if you go into a store and buy a pair, like a Nike pair of shoes, you get that one, but you get like the NFT, you get the digital version too. And the digital version is just magically everywhere you go in your digital space. So you get the filter, you get them on your avatar, you get them wherever you go in sort of the digital realm. Those shoes follow whatever avatar you're wearing. So if you decide to show up as a dragon, but you want to put your Nikes on, like, it'll do it. So I think that's where it's headed. You know, everyone wants to have everything they own with them everywhere they go.
Yeah, I think it's already happening. You know, we have the profile pictures, we have the avatars, and we're probably going to flex our wallet and NFTs like we already do in the future even more. And I'm wondering, you guys coming from gaming, you come from the gaming industry, like what kind of possibilities are now out there for gamers and, you know, maybe game developers and people who want to build that weren't there before? Like what difference do you see?
I think real life brands are getting a lot more serious about selling digital merchandise in games. That's always been possible, but we have this discussion a lot with brands that say, oh, you know, I want to put our clothes into a video game, but if the video game has violence or anything like that in it, then we don't want our brand associated with that. So we would see this constantly with brands that are like, we really want to go, but we want to make sure that the world our clothes is in is highly curated and somewhat censored to what we like our image to be. However, we have noticed a strong change in that opinion. We're now seeing the people who are kind of leading brand initiatives are now saying, hey, we have to get digital now, and we're willing to do whatever it takes. So we have seen cases where, you know, there will be an app or a video game, and you know, a pretty well-known clothing brand will come and say, hey, like, we want to pay to have our clothes in your game. And it gets this kind of exposure with the kind of younger generation of kids who play it. And that's where we're at now. Like, companies pay to get their stuff in. but I think it's switching to where if you're a smaller brand and you just want to have a space to sell your stuff digitally, games will now be open to where you can just put your stuff in a marketplace inside of a game. So I'll give you like an example. A game like Grand Theft Auto, which is like, pretty intense game at times, but there are malls and shops you can just walk in and browse clothes and put them on your character. And I think in the future, like a normal person who's a creative person could pay like a small fee and actually put their digital merchandise in that store. Players can come grab what they like and then go do what they do. So I think organic B2C selling of merchandise will be happening inside of video games.
That's so interesting because I feel like it's been there all the time. We have these games, we have like the concept was there for a long time, but only now all of these things connect with blockchain and connect with, like the whole scale of like how the metaverse can look like. And yeah, there's gonna be, for me, yesterday I was talking with someone and we talked about how VR and AR can now make, independent film creators or independent creators, they can now use that. Before they were not able to use that. And I think for game developers or smaller brands, that's a huge opportunity to get their stuff out there, like you said.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I was also thinking about, how like when you think about gaming, at least like before I go into the Web3 space, when I think about gaming or the gaming industry, I just think about like Nintendo, like Sega and all those like famous ones. And they like, there seem to be some sort of like, I guess these are publishers controlling like the gaming industry to an extent, right? So I'm guessing like Web3 is opening doors, for more independent, I guess, developers to come in the space. And like, I'm just like curious to know, what are your thoughts? I mean, I feel like the conversation has kind of moved a little bit from the fashion side to the gaming side. And I'm just like wondering, like, what do you think are some of the opportunities that like Web3 brings to, I guess, to developers and, people, to other talents who would like to be in this gaming industry, but, there are all these barriers, right, and limitations.
Yeah, to keep it focused kind of on the fashion thing, because I can tangent off pretty easily, but to keep it on fashion specifically, when it comes to avatars and clothing, without getting too technical on you guys, those assets are very dense and complicated in terms of the computer having to kind of compute them and things. And so if you're creating avatars and clothes, you want your clothes to be able to zip around the web, very quickly. And because the file sizes of those type of things are very big, computing like cloth physics is really like intense for a computer to do. So the challenge is like, how do we have a natural clothing experience in a digital space? Like, how can I dress somebody the same way we would dress a human, where I can touch the clothes and have this tactile experience, but across different digital spaces? Well, these emergent technologies that build up Web3, like faster internet, just practically having faster internet, having cloud be available, having, ability to like, offload some of this compute load to like a cloud server, and all this stuff behind the scenes that no one sees is what's going to make fashion possible in the metaverse or in Web3. So the underlying infrastructure that's now being built on Web3 is what's actually enabling this naturalistic experience that people are going to want to have when it comes to clothes and fashion.
What do you think? I think maybe you might have touched on it a little bit. What do you think are like the current issues with digital fashion? We haven't really dived into it, so if you guys can touch on that a bit, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I'd say one of the core challenges is the fashion programs where people make digital fashion, like Clo3D and Marvelous Designer and things like that. The output that those send out, it's not optimal for a game. So there's another process that it should go through. And when I say optimal for a game, if you want 50 characters in a room wearing something from Marvelous, the file type's too big and it's too dense to compute all that at one time. There is ways to do it, but it's just not optimal. The second thing is, for the fashion space, and this is what we're seeing with our product, the fashion space, as far as dressing avatars and getting into metaverses, They're worried right now that they have to like wait, or some of them are worried. Some of them have just jumped right in cold feet, right? Some of them are worried that they're going to wait until there's a winner, right? They're going to wait until there's a metaverse winner or a character avatar winner. And when we saw that, we're like, you know what? We don't really care. We don't care who the metaverse winner is. We don't care who the avatar winner is. We want clothes to flow on the top of our platform, and they'll fit any avatar and fit any art style for any metaverse, and then spit out to that environment. So rather than a fashion brand having to take, or even just a creator, doesn't have to be a big fashion brand, rather than having to take one piece of clothing and fit it to this avatar, this avatar, this avatar, this avatar, it just comes on our platform and it auto fits it to that, and then goes to that environment.
And to just talk generally about like the challenges about being a creator, a fashion creator in the metaverse, there are two things that I think are the biggest challenges. One is creating the content, just creating the content, like the tools, like Marvelous Designer, like you have to gain some mastery and competency over these tools. So, and it's totally doable, but you got to invest time to be able to create 3D clothes, right? And then the technical skills of how to dress avatars. Now, Jordan mentioned our platform helps with that, but like, say you don't want to use our platform or whatever, you got your own thing going on. Getting clothes on the avatars is the next challenge. Getting clothes to be compatible with each other is a challenge. Getting that to work in a video game. Metaverse is just a video game. It's rendering something on screen. If you're not aware of like these sort of technical limitations of the latest rendering or game engines, you're not going to be able to show anybody your clothes, because you might like crash the computer or something, which we just talked to somebody who did this on like a big show and they crashed it. It sucks when that happens, but so technical limitations are a big one. And then I would say the third challenge is what we call like logistics. Just, I created something over here in this little world. How do I get it over here? And different Web3 projects, different metaverses, they're not yet hooked up to each other. So you go through all that work to put your fashion into a certain game, and then you have this opportunity over here. You have to just do that, and you have to do that whole process again. You have to like bring all the clothes into this place, dress all the avatars again, and make sure it works. And so to just run through those real quick, it's the complexity of creating the content, making sure that content's compatible with the world you're trying to go into, and then getting it from different worlds. So there are definitely challenges, and I think people should be a little more grounded when they're like, web fashion, it's all here. It's like, well, it's here kind of.
Right. That's great. I guess like speaking about like compatibility and like being able to move your project on different platforms, I guess that's where this interoperability comes in. Interoperable, the word, because I know that like it's a word that we use in Web3, but I feel like that would be like my last question. If you guys could kind of like explain it, like what does that mean? Because I introduced your company as a fully interoperable 3D clothing, so if you can just like break that down a bit for our community.
So interoperability for us, it is very simple. What we mean by that is one shirt fits all avatars in all metaverses. So you have one shirt it'll whatever the dimensions of the body are, it'll fit that, and then you'll be able to dress it and kind of like Graham said, reach in the screen and adjust it like real cloth, like a real shirt like this. And then it'll like, let's say you're playing Decentraland versus Sandbox. So Decentraland has a kind of a stylized art. Sandbox is pixel art. It'll also be able to adjust art styles with our platform for each one. And this is also really important. Obviously, one, if you're taking things in and out of different environments or metaverses. But the other really, really big important thing is if you and I meet in a metaverse and I want to buy the shirt you're wearing, I want to buy that and I want it to switch onto my character immediately. And that's a very technically challenging thing to do if you don't have kind of this interoperability layer on top of the clothes themselves.
Yeah. So to give another practical example, say Joyce is like a 3D artist selling things in the metaverse, and I buy, say, a jacket from her store, and I then go into, say, Decentraland. I want to be able to bring that jacket with me. It's mine. I own it, right? So like I should be able to bring it wherever I go. And then if I bounce into like some other game or world or some sort of maybe meeting space, like where I'm doing a meeting with somebody, I want that jacket to come with me. I want it to just fit the different characters. If I go somewhere and I turn into a dragon and I still want to wear that jacket as a dragon, I should be able to do that. So like having clothing content be compatible across these scenarios means that it's the consumer's getting more value out of what they purchased. The consumer doesn't want to buy a shirt in Decentraland and then it can only be in Decentraland. I want to take it with me. I own it. And so that's why we're focused on making interoperability possible, because the creator, when they sell, they can sell in more places, and then the consumer can take their content. And with NFTs, not to rant on NFTs too much, but if you're a creator and you create an NFT shirt, someone puts it on their character, runs off into some other virtual world, and then they want to sell that shirt to some other player, the original creator is going to get a royalty on that. So you want to be able to create spaces for people to have, like commerce, to be able to trade, and you don't want it to be enforced by some top-down organization. You want this to be this organic web where people are trading and doing things without any authority telling them what they can and can't trade. So interoperability is that kind of, in nerd speak, it's the technical layer that's going to enable those things to happen. And there's a bunch of technical stuff we could talk about. I'll spare you, but that's really what we're focusing on behind the scenes.
Yeah, and my last point on that is I was at a coffee shop with a guy the other day, and the way he explained it, Alex, I was kind of telling him like the interoperability layer. And the way he explained it was like, so if I'm going to come in this coffee shop, I have to take my clothes off and put new clothes on before coming in. Like that just doesn't make sense, right? That just doesn't make any sense. So we want to avoid that in the digital space too.
Well said.
I just want to say, like, it makes so much sense because I have this problem. Like, I go on DressX, I make my, filter, I take a picture, but then I want to have it on Instagram or I want to put it somewhere else. Like, how I do that? Or even if I think about making digital clothes, like if I want to make a whole environment in C4D, for example, the file crashes, or so there's all these different programs, but there's no, like, it's not a nice user experience right now for, it's not easy. And that's why I feel like also people not on digital fashion 100%, like it doesn't have the convenience of just like uploading something and it's there for you. That's why they're hesitant maybe to invest in these NFTs, in digital fashion NFTs, for example. So I think you guys are onto something, like really. And I learned so much in this conversation, and we're really happy to have you on. I feel like the last episodes, we really got into the gaming and fashion mode. So really happy that we can learn about that a lot. And I want to ask you also, where can our audience find you on social media?
So our Instagram is MetaTailor, just meta-tailor or meta_tailor. And then our LinkedIn is same thing, MetaTailor. So, and to be clear, our company name is Hologress, product is MetaTailor, but we put MetaTailor everywhere. Sometimes you'll see powered by Hologress. That's just the company name. LinkedIn, so LinkedIn, MetaTailor. The website currently is Hologress, HOLOGRESS.com, where you can find all the information on our product Buddy Builder and MetaTailor. And just real quick on those, MetaTailor focuses on the clothing and the ability to like turn digital clothing into real clothing. Buddy Builder is building digital characters to then dress in that clothing. So we do both sides of it. So you'll see our products there.
So MetaTailor is right now privately used by a couple of our partners, but we're doing a public launch in June. So anybody will be able to hop on and grab it. I think we're gonna have a free version, so like people can really just grab it and play with it. So if you're a creative person listening to this, go get on the list, because you're gonna want to get this, or in the early stage. So that's what we can contribute to the space,
Well, we're going to have all your links in the description below. So if you're a creator listening to this, don't get left behind. June is around the corner, so be ready to check it out. And thank you so much, Graham. Thank you so much, Jordan. This was quite an insightful conversation, and I really enjoyed it. And thank you everyone for being a part of NewForum. If you want to get more involved in our community, make sure to follow us on our social platforms. IG is newcoin.nco and our website is newcoin.org. We will have all the links in the description. And yeah, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And we will see you in the next episode. Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you.
Graham.
Thank you guys so much for having us. It was great
Yeah,
talking
we
to you.
appreciate it.